I hope that didn't startle you too much.
I loved it. That was amazing. I was like, oh shit, this is great.
My cousin is a composer and he does work with us at Sound Theater as well on occasion, and so I had him compose my channel music.
It's
And
really good.
so,
It's really
yes,
good.
he
It's very WWE. I feel like I just
right.
walked down the ramp.
Get you in the mood. That's what I
Mhm.
told him. I said, I want something that just makes me feel pumped and ready to watch a movie or talk about a movie.
It's great.
So that's what we're here for today, you guys. I have with me the very talented Johnathan McClain. Met him last year face to face. Before I met him, I knew he had worked on The Outfit, which was one of my favorite films from 2022. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is The Outfit. But Johnathan, if you just want to give a quick sort of, you know, bio, however
Sure.
much you want to share about
Sure.
what led you to where you are now, or specifically what led you to The Outfit.
Sure. Um, well, I started my career as an actor many, many years ago in New York. And then I wound up getting on a TV show, which moved me out to LA. And then I did, a bunch of television for a long time. And when I was doing theater, the thing that sort of started my career was I wrote a one person show that I did for a really long time. And so writing and performing concurrently was always something that I cared about. And then I don't know, around 2000 something, the mid teens, I wound up selling a TV show that I created. And uh, that was like cool and fun. And I think more importantly, sort of indicated to me that there was a satisfaction that I got from being able to run point on my own career rather than wait for the phone to ring and see if someone wanted to hire me for an acting gig. And so in the midst of all of this, I became really close friends with a guy called Graham Moore, who whatever 4 or 5 years after we met and became buddies, he wins an Oscar. He won an Oscar for writing a movie called The Imitation Game,
Oh, yes.
um, with Benedict Cumberbatch and Keira Knightley.
Yep.
And also, as I was talking to someone last night about this, not only did he win an Oscar, but like that night he won the Oscars because he gave like the speech that everyone remembered from that year's Oscars, and it was really emotional. You can look it up online; it's great. If you type in
I will
Graham
do
Moore
that.
Oscar speech, it's quite something. And so on the heels of that, he had all these opportunities and things he wanted to do. And while he had ramped up to that happening, he and I had actually collaborated on a couple of projects. We'd already written together at that point, and we knew we could, and we knew we liked writing together. And so after he won his Oscar, the next thing he wanted to do was direct something. And and the thing about being a first time director is even if you do have an Academy Award, if it's not for directing, this whoever finances it is going to be very budget conscious. And he and I had talked for a while about this idea of a movie set around a Savile Row tailor. And if you haven't seen the movie or don't know what Savile Row is for anyone who might not know, Savile Row is the strip of street in London where like all of the finest suits in the world are made. They're all bespoke. They made, Jeeves and Hawkes, which is one Savile Row, used to make all of Winston Churchill suits. And so Huntsman of Savile Row is the shop that the Kingsman movies is loosely based on.
Yeah. Okay.
And in fact, they actually have a little Kingsman plaque hanging out front now because they shot the interiors there.
Oh, so
And
cool.
and they did and they were the ones who actually did the all the costuming stuff for our film. So we got to know those guys really well.
Nice.
But yeah, so we had talked about this thing because I like clothes and Graham liked clothes, and we thought it'd be cool, and we were like, this would be a fun idea, and we had been kicking it around, and I remember exactly where we were standing. We live in LA. He actually just moved to London, but at the time we were both still living in LA. And we were at the LA Zoo holiday lights ceremony thing, around Christmas when they do the zoo and Christmas lights and stuff. And he said to me, "Hey, do you think that we could do that Taylor movie we've been talking about, something for me to direct?" And I was like, "Sure." And he said, "And do you think that to keep the budget constrained, we could do it in a way that we never leave the tailor shop?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd spent my career in theater. Like I know exactly how to write play.
Right. Yeah.
Dramatic.
Exactly.
And that was how the idea came about. And then began the process, the long, hard process of writing and making a movie, which I will be happy to talk about if you want me to get in the nitty gritty.
Well, yeah, I mean, actually, I came up with a list of questions, so I wouldn't sit here like a complete nincompoop with nothing to say. Um, I that was one of the questions. What was that writing process like? Did you write it all and you're ready to go, or were there writing adjustments that happened once the film started? Did you go back and forth every day? Did you have meetings about that sort of thing?
Yeah, yes to all. I mean,
Okay.
it started with when you're writing with someone that you know really well and that you've worked with before, it's a little bit easier. So we sort of had a
Yeah.
procedure. We would meet up once or twice for a year. We met up once or twice a week, and um, longer than a year, maybe a while. It was at least a year. We would meet up once or twice a week, either at his office or my office or wherever, and just do whiteboard stuff, like first act, second act, third act. And then
Mm.
someone recently asked me about it, and I found the earliest outline notes. Like, I think one of our assistants was taking notes, and it was like, I was like, I don't even remember this character. Like, we had one point talked about a character that was we had originally, I think the movie was going to be centered around an apprentice, and
Okay.
that character wound up becoming Zoey Deutch's character instead, the
Okay.
receptionist.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, there was going to be an apprentice, and there was going to be a whole other thing, and then it was, and so spent a year like taking ideas and tossing them out, and then I remember my assistant had ideas, his assistant had ideas. We were like, we'll welcome any concept.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
So, well, because you've seen it, it's a Hitchcocky homage kind of a thing. So
Yeah.
you've got to build the mystery structure, and
Mhm.
so you can write yourself into a corner, which we did a bunch of times. But then once it was all done, the breaking of it all and the outlining, the writing part actually happened pretty quickly. I think he went away to Paris for a little while. I don't remember exactly. It was like a month. We just banged out a draft of the script in 30 days once we actually had everything in place. And then we looked at it, sent it to the agents, tried to gauge their enthusiasm level, right? Because that was, you never, because in a traditional Hollywood machinery situation, which is the one we were operating in, there's a lot of gatekeeping, so you got to get past people
Right.
who pass things along. But we already had a producer attached, and not a money person. We didn't have financing in place, just a producer, just someone to help us find the financing and give notes. And I think that's an important disambiguation. I think people think producers put up the money. They don't usually. They just make the movie happen. The
Mm.
financier is a separate entity. So we had a producer attached, and he gave us some thoughts, and we were like, "Oh, those are good thoughts." And we went back and rewrote the beginning. So again, I think you said you just watched it again.
I rewatched it last night, yeah.
The Not to spoil too much, but there's the big inciting incident when the two guys come in the shop, and we have to do the impromptu, stitching and so forth.
Yes,
That
yes.
that was on page 2 in the original
Oh,
draft.
so that was gonna be kind of like the hook? The sort of
That was like
okay,
bam, we're in it. And our
okay.
producer gave us the note. He was like, it might be interesting to see what just regular life is like. And
Mhm.
so we agreed. And we went back and we rewrote the beginning. And our writing process is kind of like, we pass scenes back and forth, and then I'll do passes on his stuff and he'll do passes on my stuff. And something I give Graham Moore a lot of credit for somebody who has an Oscar, he doesn't really have a lot of ego around letting ideas go. If you can make a valid case
Solid
for
case, yeah.
why you think something would be better, he'll hear it. um and honestly, there are things he doesn't enjoy writing as much, and I do like writing better. So we'll hand those things off to each other. He really likes the structure and the putting the puzzle together parts. And as a former actor, I really like the character relationship parts.
Mm.
So the stuff that's a little more intimate and personal is what I get tasked with, and then he'll figure out how everything blends together. And then we banged it out in a month, and then we showed it, and then we did that revision that I just mentioned, and then Well, then we were actually all set up to go, and
What
we
year was this?
attached.
Do you remember off the
When
top
was
of your
it?
head? Do you
Oh,
remember off the top of your head, like what year this was when you were
yeah.
about ready to
Oh,
go
extremely,
with it?
extremely. I remember because
Okay.
we got financing. We got we got a lead actor in place who was not Mark Rylance, and I
Right. I
don't.
remember you telling me this.
I told you this in private. I won't go
Yes.
into the public display of who was originally attached, but someone very, very, very good
Yes,
was
indeed.
attached, and that got us our financing
And very well
from film.
known, I might add.
Yeah, no, like probably more well known in the public zeitgeist than Mark because he's just done
Oh,
more
yeah.
blockbuster movies.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I don't actually know if he has an Oscar, but he's been nominated a bunch of times.
Yeah, I don't know either, but
I
it
mean,
wouldn't surprise me.
Mark has an Oscar, but this other actor is definitely more famous. Both though, like titans
Yeah.
of cinema, and I think both lords of the crown too. I think they're both sirs. But be that as it may, so we had that attached. That's what got us our money. Film Nation, wonderful, wonderful. I can't say enough good things about Film Nation. They're fantastic. They finance and distribute tons of movies, and because of that, we were basically ready to go. We were locking everything in place in January of 2020.
Okay.
And we were all set. Like we did a table read and we were ready to go make the movie. And then March of 2020 came and suddenly
Oh,
nobody
yeah.
was making anything.
Right. Exactly.
And
Yes.
we lost our actor and we thought we lost everything. Film Nation, again, I can't say enough good things. They were like, no, we'll stick around. We'll continue to back this thing. We'll figure it
Nice.
out. So I had written the lead for Mark. Like I always like when I was writing it, I had Mark in my mind. Because he's one of my favorite actors.
Had you met him before?
I knew his now ex son-in-law, a wonderful actor called Christian Camargo, was married to Mark's daughter Juliet Rylance, and so I had
Okay.
crossed paths, but we weren't like friends at all.
Okay. All right.
But when names for replacements started getting kicked around, uh, I didn't know if they'd still pay for the movie with Mark because he's not box office, right? He's not like a big
Right.
draw per
Yeah.
se,
Yeah.
and so I wasn't sure, so I didn't say it. And then when they brought his name up, I was like, "Yeah, no, he's good. Like, we should see if he'll come aboard."
And you were like, yes.
Yeah, it was awesome. And so we took a meeting with Mark, and he was like, "I would love to do your film." And we were like, "All right, we're back on. Let's figure out how and where we make this happen." So we spent all of 2020 reconfiguring the plan. There was a moment we were going to go to Iceland,
Hmm.
because the movie's advantage is that it takes place all inside the tailor shop. So
Yep.
we shot on a soundstage. So the soundstage can be anywhere.
Exactly.
And so Iceland had no COVID cases or had like zero, and they were looking to make movies. And that was a real conversation we had for a couple of months. And then at the very last minute, the UK came in and said, yeah, it's bad over here and there's lots of COVID and we're on third lockdown, but we need production. And so here's a huge tax credit if you'll come over here and qualify as an English production. And what that means is X number of it has to be, the primary character has to be British, or it has to have a British, foreground cast or crew, all crewed up, locally with the British crew and directors of photography, heads of departments and so forth. And so we were like, yeah, great. Let's do it. So did that. And then we got real lucky. Most films that are independently financed and don't go through the studio system wind up having to, I mentioned this to you before we went on. I had dinner with one of the producers from the film, this woman, Nell Green, who's over from the UK last night, in fact. And she has a film that they have finished that's in the UK, that's going to go to festivals to seek distribution. Because, even a well-funded, well-endorsed film still has to find a distribution network.
Right.
And Film Nation isn't really, it doesn't have its own distribution mechanism in place per se. And so we were like, well, we'll make this movie and then we'll either go to Sundance or wherever and see if we can find a distributor for it. But Focus Features, which is a subsidiary of Universal, swooped in the last minute before we even left to go film, and they were like, "Yeah, no, we're in," and we signed the deal, and so we had all of that in place, and so while we were over in the UK shooting, we knew what the whole plan of attack was, and that's rare and really, really cool, and we waltzed, and it was it was lockdown, so I shot a film for the first time in a mask and shield and the whole deal,
Oh,
and
goodness.
all the COVID restrictions and all the protocols in place and testing daily before you could go on set, and the whole thing. That by the way, like this, our little endeavor to keep the budget constrained kind of blew the hell up once the COVID
Yep.
costs started getting
Right.
associated with it.
Yeah.
But we were there for a couple months. Yeah, and then we came back, and it was wild too. This is not really about the film, but when we went back in the summer to go to London in summer 2021 to do post-production, like sound and color and so forth, um, it was like a different city because we left in the middle of late March, still in
Yeah.
lockdown, and we go back
Yep.
in the summer. And while it was still COVID, there was a vaccine at that point, and restrictions were being lifted and whatever. And man, like it was mayhem. I was like, oh wow, I forgot that London was such a vibrant place. So that was
Yeah.
that's the whole story of how like the thing came to be. And then we got real lucky, and I say we got lucky that we got a theatrical premiere because so many things go straight to streaming now, that we actually we went to Berlin to premiere at the Berlin Film
Yep.
Festival, and then we actually had a theatrical release. Now, the downside of that was that we opened on the same day as the Batman movie with Robert Pattinson.
Oh, I forgot. I went to both movies,
Yeah.
but, I forgot that it was the same time. I actually like the outfit more, by the way.
Well, thank you. I
I
mean, it's
I
a
went to go no, and
different
I'm not just saying that, honestly, Jonathan, I'm not just saying that. I was underwhelmed by the Batman, and yours, it just kind of stuck out. It was just, like, so, compelling. The characters, I loved Mark Rylance's performance. I told you last year
yeah.
that I found out later I had seen him in other things, but he just kind of like he just never made an impression on me until I saw the outfit.
Hmm.
And I noticed him. That's when I noticed him as an actor, and he brings such depth to this character. Just his physical mannerisms, watching it again, and just the little teeny tiny things he does, expressions on his face, the way he holds his posture, his body at certain moments, when things are happening. Oh my gosh, I just adore his character so much. He
Me
did
too.
such a fantastic job, and I thought that the chemistry between his character and Zoe's character was great. I love the dialogue. I love the little moments between them at the beginning. Something really simple like them folding the kerchiefs,
Yeah.
and he's
I love
doing
that
it
scene.
very proper, and she just like floop, floop.
Yeah. I love that scene. Yeah, it's a real we that's a screenwriting thing, right? Like it's a little, how do we establish this father-daughter, pseudo father-daughter relationship without putting a highlighter on it? And it's like, well, let's find a little physical thing or a little action that they can behavioral thing that can be conducted between the two of them that tells the audience exactly what we need them to understand about this dynamic without, banging them over the head. And and that's one of my favorite. I love that scene. I love
Oh,
that scene.
I love all of their interactions, but that particular one, and just also in the very intro where he's narrating and he's talking about how, a pattern is made and all this stuff. I can't repeat it exactly the way he did, but how it's showing the process, and he's got those big honking shears he's using.
Yeah.
And I love the score too. The score is perfect. So how did these elements come into play as well? And how much involvement did you have in things like picking, besides your desire to have Mark, picking the cast, who did the score, stuff like that?
Um, I was blessed with a particularly unique, a lot is the answer, and I was given a uniquely generous opportunity to participate in those things beyond what a screenwriter might normally enjoy,
Right.
because one of my best friends was also directing it, and he and a first time director, and he would say this, I don't feel weird about saying it, I had been on a ton more sets than he had. I mean, yes, he was on the Imitation Game set, but I'd been on more just mathematically over the course of my career. And
Right.
so he was like, please be near. And he was also like, you speak actor. So please feel
Yeah.
free to give notes. And please. So I kind of like, there was a point where Mark said something like, I want to give a round of applause to our co-directors. And I kind of was like, sorry. And Graham was like, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I was like, I mean, technically I'm not the director. But I was an executive producer. And so I had a lot of latitude. So as far as the score goes specifically, that was Alexandra Desplat, who I think Alexandra has 17 Academy Award nominations and like 11
Oh,
wins.
my
It's
goodness. Okay.
something like that. It's something like that. And Alexandra had scored Imitation. So we reached out to him, and because it was COVID and nobody was really working, and we didn't really have an Alexandre Desplat budget to hire him, right? Uh, he
Yeah.
works on much bigger films, much more expensive films, but he agreed to work for way less than his quote because of his relationship to Graham. Billy Goldenberg, our editor, who has become one of my dearest friends, he cut Imitation. He also has 2 Oscars. Again, agreed to work for substantially less than his quote. Um, Dick Pope, who passed away about a year and a half ago, but he was our director of photography. 2 Academy Award nominations, was Mike Lee's DP, worked for less than his quote. Gemma Jackson, who did the production design, was the production designer for Game of Thrones, 2 Academy Award nominations. I mean, it was like the embarrassment of
You
riches
had
available to us
so much talent
was
there.
preposterous.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, like I say, and then Zach Posen came in to help with the costumes. Now Zach is the creative director of Gap. So, at the time he was still running his eponymous clothing line, but brand. Huntsman of Savile Row came in and they were like, yeah, we'll do the costumes. Sure. And in fact, Campbell Carey, the wonderful creative director of Huntsman, is Mark's hand double. So when you see
Yeah.
all the real close-up stuff of Mark doing fine tailoring and detailed work, that's all
Oh.
Campbell's hands.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Interesting. I never
yeah,
would have known.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, I real and as a COVID production, all the other producers were not in the whatever it was, the yellow zone where Graham and I were authorized. Like me, Graham, essential
Oh, you
crew
mean
and
like
actors,
physical where you could be on
physical
set?
zones on
Okay.
the set. Yeah.
Mhm.
And so, normally you've got producers like come in and saying, flying in notes or suggesting things, or let's try that again, or do we feel like, whatever. And we didn't have that. So we could basically just do whatever we wanted, which was amazing. And then, we also were blessed with a really, like I said, I had dinner with one of the producers last night. Like it was because it was COVID, because it was a closed set, because we were all stuck in quarantine together, because we were all just living in these flats in Wembley. Like it sort of felt more like when I used to do regional theater and you'd go off with a bunch of actors and you'd all be in like actor housing and you'd just be this summer camp kind of a vibe for, a couple months and
Yeah.
then disappear.
Yeah.
Like it really felt like that. I think the reason that all of us from that show have maintained close relationships is because we had such a unique bonding experience on it. Like, Dylan, Zoe, Johnny, Flynn, um, I consider them, good friends to this day. And as far as casting goes, that was Mark we talked about. Zoey was actually the very first person cast, and
Oh.
it was always her. She took an early meeting and wanted to do it real bad. And we did a table read at one point before any offers were made. And Zoey was awesome. Like, Zoey's pretty fancy. Zoey doesn't have to audition, and we would never make her audition, but I think she was like, well, I don't want someone else coming to do this table read. So the table read was just so we could hear it out loud.
Right. Yeah.
But she was like, no, I'll show up for free on my own dime to New York and do it because she really campaigned for it and put herself in a position
Wow.
to, which was awesome. Um, like Mark coming in, the Johnny Flynn part, the second on the call sheet, we had someone else cast in that role and couldn't get him to get out of an existing contract at the last minute. So we were scrambling and it was like, who's available? Who's available? And Mark said, do you guys know Johnny Flynn? He's a wonderful actor. I've worked with him. And we watched his movies and he put himself on tape. And we were like, yeah, he's wonderful. Dylan O'Brien campaigned really hard for his part. Dylan voluntarily auditioned. Like, we didn't ask him to, but he got a copy of the script and pulled a scene and like put himself on tape and sent in his audition. And we were like, this is one of the most charismatic, compelling auditions that I've ever seen.
He's super talented.
He's so to me, like, I don't, movie stardom is a weird thing that not even movie stars can explain, but it's not possible to understand what it is that makes someone this. But Dylan to me has everything that a major star is made of. And he's a wonderful guy. And then we did have also another actor, not only cast for the role of Roy, the mob boss, but like actually his deal was basically closed. And then he wouldn't come to England because his wife was pregnant and he didn't want to risk getting sick and going back.
Yeah. Sure.
And that was when we were like, okay, who is the best actor who's in London now and can come to work tomorrow? And Simon Russell Beale, after Mark Rylance, is the second most Olivier awarded stage actor in England's history, I think. And has a Tony Award like Mark does, and is just a titan of the British theater. And he had just gotten back from doing some Marvel movie in Australia. And we were like, would he be interested? And he had never worked with Mark before. Like they, run in these circles, but they'd never. So we were able to put them together in their very first, like the mini version of De Niro and Pacino doing Heat acting together for the first time. Like this is our little micro version of that. So that's how that happened. The fun story though, as far as casting goes, that I treasure is we hadn't cast. There's only one other speaking role, right? It's not a big cast. There's only one other two other speaking roles. There's Nikki, who's fabulous. Adore Nikki Amuka Bird. But the guy who plays Roy Boyle's bodyguard, big guy.
Right. Yes, with the shotgun.
He plays a character called Monk.
Yeah.
Again, we were like, you know what? We'll find someone who can do an American accent or whatever. We'll go. It's fine. We'll do it. And we'll get to the UK. So that was actually my job. Like Graham was doing whatever, or producers. My job was to watch every tape that came in for that part and cast it. And I had cast it. Found a guy. It was great. I was like, make an offer. And then one of the producers came and knocked on my office door and said, I just got one last tape that just came in last minute. And I was like, what are we doing? I've got stuff to do, and we have cast this part. What are we doing?
Looked at so many. Yeah.
Put the offer out. And he starts back down the hall. And I was like, I used to be an actor. How would I feel if I was like, give me the damn tape. Let me look at the damn audition. Just let me see it. And it was Alan, the guy that we wound up casting. And I was like, oh no, this is the guy. The other guy was close, but this is the guy.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't watched it at the last second, he would never have. So like that disciplined me to everything I will do for the rest of my career. I will make sure to honor every single thing that comes across my email inbox.
Yeah, that was a good moment, certainly, to cement that.
It was great. And he and I become like just best of mates, as a result of that, because he sort of found out that, that I snuck him in at the last minute. And again, like I say, all of us in this project 5 years later are still super, super bonded. It's one of the most special things I've ever had a chance to be a part of.
Do you feel like, it came to theaters at a time when theaters are still kind of struggling to sort of get back in it. And so, I'm glad I was able to catch it when I did because it wasn't on the big screen very long.
Yep.
And it's now on Netflix, which I have told everybody that I talk to about this movie. And I have been telling people about this movie because I just never forgot it. And it was just crazy finding out who you were when you started interacting with, Jeff and Justin and all of that. And
Yeah.
I was like, Johnathan McClain, he's the writer of this movie. Anyway, what the hell was I starting to say? Oh, Netflix. Sorry. Netflix. I feel like I feel like this movie has sort of been able to get a little bit more steam under it or more known because good word of mouth. And of course, it's on Netflix. Do you feel like that? Or is that just my
No,
imagination?
no, that's not your imagination. It's objectively true. I mean, we were in the top 10 in Netflix for a little while when it came out here in the States, but we were like number 1 or 2 in the UK when it came on Netflix UK for like a
Ah,
long while. And we were on
fantastic.
Amazon exclusively before that, and we were in the top 5 in Amazon for a long time. So it's the kind of movie too that I think because it feels a lot of people have said to me, was it a play first? And I'm like, no, it wasn't a play first, in fact. But a lot of people have said,
I mentioned something to you about how it
yeah.
would be a great play.
Well, and I'll circle back to that in a second because there is a little bit more to that story. But I think because of the intimacy of it, it's well suited for. I was thrilled that it was on the big screen. I love going to a movie theater. It's my favorite place in the world, and that made me really proud to be able to go see my movie on a big screen. Premiering at Berlin in a 2,000 seat theater. Like, it was amazing. It was awesome. But I think it suits itself well to sitting at home, on your couch.
Yeah,
It's a small film.
right.
Um, we have been approached multiple times about adapting it for a play. I don't know if I mentioned this to you when I saw you last, but uh, there's some trouble on threading the rights, so that we can get the rights freed up to adapt it as a play.
I think you did mention something. That's disappointing.
It's challenging, but there is a positive. And I said to you right before we came on, I had a busy morning. One of the busy things is that one of the West End producers in London who wanted to get it as a play, and I said I can't, but I have another idea. Do you want to hear it? Um, they I've been commissioned to write an original play for the West End, and like
Oh,
the
wow.
official sort of like final offer just came through this morning. So
Oh, well,
the outfit
congratulations.
created the opportunity for me to do something
Exactly.
like it in
Yeah,
play form, which is cool. Which is cool.
that is exciting. Well,
Yeah.
best of luck to you in that endeavor.
Thank you.
Um, as far as the process of filming, do you have any distinct moments that stand out in your mind as far as some of the more challenging aspects of a certain scene or moment or something that was just felt so rewarding? I remember you telling me something about Mark last year after a take
Yeah.
had happened.
Y Yeah, this story takes a second, but I think it's worth it, and it is the story that I would tell. This is my Jimmy Kimmel story, right? It's like my if this is my do you remember what's the best moment you can remember in your career? And I'm like, "No, I have it. It's easy. I know what it is." Um, there's a big monologue that we wrote for Mark right in the middle of the film that requires a lot, and we shot in sequence, which is another really interesting thing that you had the privilege
Oh,
of doing because of it. We just shot it like scene 1, scene 2, like, we just shot it
oh,
in
I
order.
did not know that. Very
Yeah,
interesting.
and we just shot it in order till we were done, every day until we were done. So we're halfway through the shoot, we get to this big emotional monologue scene, and it was also, small cast, a lot of 2 and 3 people, scenes. So this was one of the first times we had, like, 6 or 7 people on set at the same time, and it was last up. It was the last thing we were shooting in the day. Partially because we knew we were gonna blow Mark out emotionally, and you don't wanna
Mhm.
start with that and then have to,
Yeah.
be like, "Okay, now do the part where you wash your hands." You know what I mean? And we'll film that 5 times or whatever. So, 2 things, though, problematic about waiting till the end of the day. 1, everybody's tired, and 2, you're running out of, daylight, basically, right? Like, the day gets called, and otherwise you're in overtime, and now you're racking up money. So
Uh-huh.
So we get to this big thing, and Mark didn't want to do his coverage first. He wanted everybody else to get their reaction shots first, which again, you want to save your best stuff for last. He didn't want to blow it out and then have to do it 6 more times just so they could turn around on the other actors, right? So, and it warms him up. So he was warmed up. He was in it. He was in the model. And we had 2 cameras, so we were shooting A and B cameras, and we're pretty tight on Mark. And he does the monologue the first time, and it's bonkers good. And I'm like, I'm at the monitor with Graham and our script supervisor Beverly, who's just, mwah. And we were standing there, masks, shields, the whole deal. And Graham and I are both crying because
Oh.
Mark is just delivering the hell out of this thing. And we're watching it happen. Then call cut. And then our AD George runs over and he's like, he called us squires. He goes, squires. I assume we want to do another take, but we are at the end of the day. Shall I call Grace? And Grace is when you call and say, like, will everybody on the set stick around for one more for at least 15 minutes for free?
Okay. Yeah.
And it's a courtesy. And so everyone's
Right.
like, of course, yes. Everyone, thank you so much for calling Grace. Appreciate it. Blah, blah, blah. Very quiet because now everybody just wants to go home. So we do it again and we go tighter because we're trying to get, like, we're pushing in each time. And Mark is such a pro. Mark knows his lenses. Mark knows where the camera is. He knows how to modulate the performance, right? So he's drilling down. He's getting more internal, and we're getting closer, and we're seeing the gear. I mean, it's just incredible. And I'm crying even more. Now there's snot in my mouth from the mask, and Beverly, our script supervisor, sniffling and like, and then Dick, rest his soul, 74 years old at the time, not only a DP, but his own camera op. So he likes to sit on the dolly behind the lens himself, not looking at a monitor, but he wants to be the one operating the camera. And he leans over to his camera guy, his AC, his first AC, and he goes, "Get me to 200." Now the 200 means you're going like ECU, like extreme, like getting right in there.
Okay.
Now a couple things. One, holy shit, we're now pushing in. Like, Dick didn't even wait. Dick just wants to go again and wants to get as tight as he can on Mark because he sees that we're catching magic, right? But 2, we're out of time and money. And so George comes running over and he's like, squires. And Graham's like, watch the set. I'll be back. And so God bless Graham. He like rushes off and he goes to the producers. And I wasn't there, but he reported it to me. Like, he goes, I just said, find the money. And then he marched back and then he's there and he stands next to me. He goes, and I was like, and we're there and we're good. And everybody's very quiet. And we pull B camera out because that's it. We're just super tight. One camera on Mark right there, getting the eyes, getting the thing. And Mark is drilling down into the thing and he is giving it. And Graham and I are sobbing and Beverly is sobbing. And Dick Pope, rest his soul, coughs in the middle of the take.
Oh, no.
And it is pin drop quiet in that room. Everyone is terrified to move.
Oh.
And you just hear Dick go, "Mark, I'm so sorry." And Mark keeps his 1,000-yard stare and he just goes, "That's all right." And like stays in it. Dick gets a drink of water, puts the water down, and says, "All right, sit." And then Mark like imperceptibly goes and finishes the monologue. And then we call cut, and it was just like, and it was then people, and it was a weird energy because it was like, we're late and everyone wants to go home. We need a but also we just all watched something extraordinary happen.
Yeah.
And people are hugging Mark and, good job, old man, and all that kind of stuff. And his assistant gives him his tea and he's sipping his tea and he works his way past everybody and he finds his way to me. And he pulls the shield off and he pulls the mask off. And he goes, leans in and he goes, "Too big?" I was like, "No, Mark, it was good. You're a good actor and you did good acting." And he gives me like a little kiss on the side of my cheek, like thanking me for writing this thing for him, and then goes, and I got home, my wife, Laura, I called my wife.
Yeah.
So we're getting done. It must have been 1 in the morning in LA. But I called her and I
Oh,
woke her up
okay.
and I was like, I have to tell you this thing that just happened. That is, not only was the whole experience extraordinary or whatever, but like I revered this guy. I wrote this part for him. I was an actor. I came, for him to then like take all of that and bring it to me and ask me basically, were you happy with what I did? Did it feel good?
Right.
And
Like
to
he
trust me
wondered.
with the
Yeah.
question and the whole thing, it meant it was great. So that's yes, that story is the one that is particularly meaningful from that shoot.
Oh, of course. I remember you kind of told me a more abbreviated version of that last year, and I
Yeah.
just thought that was so touching and sweet. I mean, I guess in my brain, he did such an excellent job in this role that that's now who I see him as. He
Hmm.
is now this
Hmm.
and I'm sure he's totally not, but that's how talented I guess he is
He's
because
something.
I saw him later in another movie called Bones and All,
Oh yeah, he was telling me
totally
about that. Yeah, I
different.
remember. Yeah.
Oof. Yeah.
Yep. Bones is
It was a
wild.
completely different type of yes, it is. Don't ever watch that movie if you're eating something. I
That's
made the
true.
mistake
It's true.
of, eating my supper while I was,
Oh no.
screening the
No,
film,
that's
and
not
that
it.
was a huge no, I big mistake, but he was in it, and, of course, I had already seen the outfit, so I was like, "Oh, Mark Rylance," and so now when I see him, it's like, "Oh," I just have all these great feelings about him as an actor, specifically because of this story that was told for him as an
Mhm.
actor. Um, were there any scenes or twists in the story that didn't survive the final edit and you wish had made that? Were there any cuts basically that you wish hadn't
There
been
was
made?
only one thing. It's such a great question, and normally the answer would be yes a million times. This
Yeah.
script survived everything. There was the only thing that happened in the edit bay that is not in the script is there is a scene where Mark Rylance is manipulating Dylan O'Brien's emotions while Johnny Flynn is out doing something, and then
Okay.
Johnny Flynn returns, and
Oh,
the way
okay.
and then he manipulates Johnny Flynn, so he's manipulating both
Yes.
of them. That was
Yes.
scripted sequentially,
Okay.
scene. And we got into it and thought this feels a little static and it feels like we're now just bookending, and so we chopped that up, so it's like we see him doing some manipulating here, then cut out of time to the
Mhm.
future where he's manipulating here, then cut back into the and then cut back, and then we blend the two moments and timeline it back into order again. That was like the only thing that we did to make it a little more cinematic. Oh, actually there's one other thing, because I remember the day we realized this. We were like, what else can we do to take advantage of the cinema of it? And there's a couple of scenes where like Mark is he's like sleeping and he hears somebody, and what's like, well, we're pushing in close on a sleeping face. What is he dreaming about? And there's a recurring fire image. And so
Yes.
I
Yep.
remember saying to Graham, why don't we drop in fire? And he's like, to what end? And I was like, to this end. Let's cut to shots of the shears doing things when scheming is happening. And so occasionally throughout the film, random shots of the shears cutting things will punctuate scheming moments. And when
Mm.
drama or tragedy is happening, or there's something that needs to be summoned forth by this fire metaphor, we drop in images of the fire. And I remember Graham just being like, yes. And so we didn't, because it's a pretty straightforward film. There's not like a ton of allegory in it. It's not magical realism or anything. It's like it all happens in the real world. And
Yep.
but that was one of the things that was like, well, let's see if we can find moments to sort of accent what might be happening in this character's brain, and we'll symbolize those accents by the fire and the shears metaphor visually. So that was like another thing we did. But in terms of like the stuff you hear about with movies, that didn't make it. It was left on the cutting room floor. Blah blah blah. No, basically if I send you the script, I'll send you the script. Like every word
Oh,
in the
I'd love
script,
to see that. Yes,
every word in
please.
the shooting draft is on the page. Is every word on the page is on the screen. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Something that I really wish had been done for the Blu-ray release of this is
Mm.
an audio commentary. I really miss
Yeah.
that that's not on there.
Yeah.
Um,
It would have been, yeah, it would have been cool. I mean, like, here's the brutal reality. It did okay, right? Like, it did
yeah,
okay. The movie kind of made everybody's money back, but it wasn't like a hit. And so to
yeah.
bring us into the studio and to do that and to special press that costs money.
It's
And
cost prohibitive, yeah.
yeah, and I mean, it's
Sure.
not like, look, let's be clear. It's Hollywood. They have the money. They're doing
I know,
fine.
right? I know,
But
right?
but
Okay, come on, just, a little bit, just a little because one of my favorite things about Blu-rays is the audio commentary. I have always been fascinated with what is behind the scenes, what
yeah.
goes into making this story and bringing it to life, so I love hearing all the little stories about what was going on here and just different things about the actors, different things about the sets, and this and this and this. So it's just, I was very, but I guess this is the closest we'll get to something like an audio commentary. So I appreciate
Maybe
you doing.
someone can just put this on as a parallel track in the background while they're
There
watching the
you
movie.
go.
Listen to
There
this
you go.
conversation.
Exactly. Something that I had forgotten about the little fire scene that you're talking about when he was dreaming. So this was early on in the film, and you didn't really know much at all yet about him, his background. And that's kind of like a little bit of a teaser. Oh,
Yep.
there's something deeper and darker in his background than we know. And then we get this is fed to us little by little when you pick on things like when he's manipulating those two characters. Oh my goodness. And he's so good at it.
Yeah. He's incredible.
Yeah, just so um Dylan, when he this question popped in my brain when you were talking about his audition tape earlier. When he sent in his audition tape, did he have that same dialect that he used for this film?
The Chicago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the way he talked.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So he knew what he was doing. Yeah, he very talented. He's the one actor from Teen Wolf that remained my favorite because he's so freaking talented, and I've seen him in a bunch of different stuff since then. Have you seen Twinless?
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't.
That really shows off his skills as a solid dramatic actor. If you can get past certain scenes that are shown, because I'm not a fan of certain types of scenes in movies, but he's great. I do recommend that if
I'll get
if
to it.
certain, yeah, he's so good. Um, there was another question I had also. Well, I have multiple different ones. Some you've already answered, so I'm not going to try to like go into them again. But is there one line from the film that you feel the proudest of writing?
I
Or
don't
that
think
means the
there's
most to you, or, you know
um I don't. No, no, it's a fair question. It's a couple of jokes that I wrote that I really like. There are a couple things I wrote like on the day. I remember there's this moment where Johnny Flynn, we couldn't figure out how to get him out of a scene, and the line that we'd written wasn't working. And I wandered over to him, and I didn't tell anybody that I was going to do this. It's before he leaves the tailor shop, and he just says, "Welcome to the family." And I
Ah,
came
yeah.
up with that off the top of my head. And I was like, I whispered in his ear, I was like, "Say this," and he goes, "Okay." And then he did it, and I didn't tell him. No one but me and Johnny knew that he was going to do it. And so,
Oh,
and
fantastic.
people were like, "Oh, yeah!" So that was exciting. That put some energy in. Um, I guess I mean, for me, the movie is about thematically something that I frankly explore in pretty much everything I write. I was had a meeting the other day, and they were like, "What do you like to write about?" And I was like, "I like to write about a lot of different things." And so, because they were asking really, what kind of genre do you like to write? Crime, or do you like to write this? And I was like, "Well, I have a fantasy novel, and I write this. I do all kinds of things, but they all explore the same concept, which is like identity and
Yeah.
and who we are." And so that last monologue of Mark's about I put on all of these clothes, I do all of this so that I can try and feel like I'm one thing, but underneath I'm really just always going to be the thing that I am, is basically what he's saying. That
Right.
to me, that hits right at the heart of what it is that I wanted to write this movie about. So maybe that.
It's a
But
good
there's
moment.
some good stuff in there.
Oh, yeah, and the welcome to the family, I never would have known that was something you came up with on the fly because they had already talked about family being part of this family, you
Well,
know.
that was why I thought it was
That
funny is
was
when I went over
yeah.
to say it to him, I was like, "How did I not think this when I was writing it in the first place? This is like clearly obvious." So
Sometimes it takes a bit, it takes a bit. Something else I really appreciated about these characters that even though, um, several of them are bad dudes, they're not good people, but they are written in such a way that they don't come across as caricatures of what they're supposed to be. Even the father, that little conversation that they have, when he's talking about tools,
yeah, yeah.
I love that moment. Because the point he was making, it was like, "Yeah, I can kinda see what you're saying about that gun being this
I
tool that you're using."
I'm glad that comes across because yeah, I mean they're all anti-heroes at best. And
Mm,
the fact, but when you're writing, this is what I love about writing characters is it's true of playing characters too. Like you can only write a character and you can only play a character if you don't judge the character. And so the key I think is just to try not to judge them as you're writing them or paint them with a brush that has an air of intention behind it other than just letting them be who they are, you know
right, right.
and and we also have a bunch of really charismatic actors playing these parts too, which helps.
Oh, I
Like the
I
actors
can't
themselves
I
have.
I can't imagine anybody else playing who they like, everyone who came in that wasn't originally sup supposed to be part of it, they're fantastic. Oh my gosh, Johnny Flynn, his role? Goodness gracious, he was so good.
Johnny's one of my
So
favorite actors and people now. I didn't really know his work that much before, to be very honest. And I adore him. He's special. He's
yeah.
special.
You gathered a great group of people and gave us something really unique and interesting. And I appreciate you taking the time to. Oh my goodness, we got I got some people that have popped in. Some of my YouTube, but one of my fellow YouTube buddies wanted me to tell you how much he loved this film. And I told him that I would. His name on YouTube is Deleted Scene, so I'm going to give that shout out. Deleted. This is me telling Jonathan how much you really like this film because I've not met anybody that I've recommended this film to that has told me later this was the worst film. I hated it so much. Nothing but
Well,
good
good. And
things.
and if that had happened, it would have been. I would have. I would have hoped you wouldn't tell me. So that's great. I did. It's funny. I did not realize that comments were happening.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I
I
just
was
looked over.
Yeah, there have been several. I thought about popping them up on the screen, but then I didn't know if that would be too much of a distraction for you. And there weren't any specific questions. There were some people. Someone said, which I was going to pop up for you. He loves how you tell stories. So, I mean, he's a good
Thank you,
writer.
man.
So,
Thank you, man. Uh,
let's see.
oh,
Yeah.
someone did ask, how did it go from inception to final draft? I think they may have dropped in after we had already gone
Oh,
through that. That is
did
in
I
here.
miss that? Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that. I was keeping an eye on you and the screen.
Well done.
Bonzo says he saw this movie thanks to Sin. See, I told you, Jonathan. I'm telling everybody watch this movie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody who watches it, thank you for the like 2 cents that you're putting in my pocket every time. You stream it. Really appreciate it.
Anthony, one of my good fellow film critics and YouTube buddies here, he says that it was one of his favorites of that year. Yes, mine
Awesome.
too, Anthony.
Awesome.
Top tier, underrated. Yes, I've told so many. Yes, me too. We're gonna both like be your I don't know
My
apostles
hype
or
people,
whatever. Yeah, yeah.
my publicists. I'll take it. It takes a village. I'm all in.
So yeah, our time is pretty much up. I know you have to go. I've got a meeting with my sound booth theater peeps, but I thank you so much, Johnathan, for sharing your time with us. And I could talk endlessly about this with you. Maybe whenever we see each other again, we can have some
Can
more
I
conversation.
answer the last two questions that I saw here?
Yes. Yes.
Well, first of all, thank you. So that was one of. So first of all, the one before that is
Ah,
John McClain. Did you
yes.
get into screenwriting after the events of Back Nine Live? Yippee ki baby! Yippee ki motherfucker! You know
Yeah,
I did.
yeah, you can you
Had
can
to do
curse if
something.
you want. It's fine.
Had to do something. Had to tell the
I
story.
know,
But
right?
what was it like on working on 24? 24 was great. 24 was a long time ago. 24 was great.
Yep.
That was fun. Mad Men was one of the best experiences of my acting career by far. I can't say enough good things about working with John Hamm. Everything about that experience was fantastic. I loved being on that set. It was like a huge privilege. And I would, if John called me today and was like, come be a stand-in in my next whatever, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Well,
So
I'm
there you go.
surprised you weren't in Gail Daughtry and the Celebrity Sex Pass, because Zoe and John, and then John Slattery were both in that. They were all in there, and I thought of you
You
the
know
whole
what?
time I was watching it.
On my phone. Where's my phone? My phone's available. Ring me up. I'm here.
I wouldn't have
I'm
had.
game.
I wouldn't. I don't know. I'm glad you weren't. But anyway, whatever. I thought of you while I was watching the film, because I recognized these people that you knew, that you had worked with.
Yeah.
Um, so I think there was a Procto says he's definitely going to check it out. Yes, you
Thank
must.
you.
It's available.
Thank you.
Netflix. Watch
Thank
it.
you.
Watch it. You were so good in your scene.
Thank you.
Well, he's good. He was also in The Outfit, but he has a non-speaking part.
I did. I gave myself a cameo. I gave myself my
Yeah.
Hitchcock cameo. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah, well, I loved 24. Really, really loved that show. But okay, yes. I will go ahead and close this out for now. Thank you so much to everyone in the comments for your questions, your comments, for hanging in there. We had quite a decent chunk of people watching, and hopefully there will be more on the replay, because I'm glad I did this as a live stream instead of just an interview, so we could have some interaction with the audience. So thank you again, Johnathan, so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
And I'm going to go ahead and hit end stream, and we'll see you guys later. Bye.